Welcome back to the channel, guys. As we look into our potential systems to form, so right now we're looking at the GFS model. This is what we're looking at right now, plus 6 hours. I don't have too much going on, but we're gonna be having the potential for a system to end up forming. So this is right now, guys. We got a high pressure system building up here. But this is right now. We have a lot of moisture forming inside in the Eastern Pacific. Lots of moisture coming in the Caribbean. Again, this is in what 60-hour time. Lots of moisture coming, and then we actually get a low pressure system forming in around 84 hours or so. And we actually get two. First of all, we're gonna focus on this one first because it seems to be forming first, and then we're focused on our second system because we could be getting two tropical cyclones in the next week, potentially at the same time. So obviously, we're gonna be getting lots of moisture. This entire bin here, this is gonna be filled with moisture, and this is mostly coming in from Central America, inside the Caribbean, and also really from the Eastern Pacific because we're gonna be actually getting a couple of high pressure forming over Mexico, and what that's going to cause is actually a little entryway for low pressure systems to come in from the eastern into the Caribbean. So as we look at the first system here, in about 96 hours or so, we have actually this area of rotation that forms with this system. It actually becomes a short-lived low pressure system. It doesn't look to be really tropical because at that point, obviously, it gets crushed by the high pressure. But that's our first chance for a tropical system. I wouldn't worry too much about it because if it did form, it would go right out to sea. And if it even formed, it would be a very weak tropical storm to tropical depression. So that really isn't our main concern. But that is the first window of opportunity for a system to form in about 102 hours or so. And that will be obviously the first thing in a week or so for this to form, potentially heading out in the next couple of days. So that's going to be the first opportunity for Bill, obviously. But the second one, really, which we should be really focusing on, is right here with all this moisture forming. We actually get a low pressure system in about 184 hours or so, which struggles a little bit to get, its thing together as we actually have two low pressure systems trying to form at the same time, one in the Eastern Pacific and one in the Caribbean, according to the GFS model. And that's going to be, kind of their bush trying to pull their moisture out. And so that's going to take a while for this to develop properly. We still going to have that low pressure rotation. And then we also have that some rotation trying to form here in the Eastern Pacific. And that's going to be embedded all inside, embedded in this elongated area of rotation, as well as this more centered area of vorticity in the Caribbean. And eventually, everything's going to, start to get its act together as it starts to split off. And really where it's going to be starting to really intensify is when it gets near the Yucatan Peninsula near Mexico. And it does end up actually kind of staying here for a couple of days. And this is where we really start seeing intensification on the GFS model. So we get the system here moving inside near the Yucatan Peninsula, likely going between Cuba and the Yucatan Peninsula. Now, not much high pressure system. We got this high pressure, this ridge up here, which is going to be pulling things out. And then we actually have, like I said, somewhat of a high pressure that's going to be trying to form over Mexico, which is going to be pretty much curving the storm towards Florida from what it looks like. And on top of that, we're going to have this low pressure system also bringing the entire thing likely towards Florida. So we're gonna be seeing something similar to this. Now it's not yet sure if it's gonna pull out sooner. We've seen models earlier this week showing the storm curving a lot sooner. I've seen models. We've seen also models showing the storm going straight towards Texas earlier. We've seen models curving it a little bit later, and we've seen models curving right under Florida a little sooner. Now with the GFS model, the latest run, we're seeing a 960 to 969 millibar landfall in Florida. So it's got to be a Cat 2, possibly a Category 3, likely a Category 1 to Category 2 landfall near the Tampa Bay area. So obviously, it's gonna be a pretty big storm potentially. The conditions look to be right. We're gonna be looking at that in just a moment. We're gonna have really good moisture for the storm. We're gonna have not too much wind shear. We could have the opportunity for some rapid intensification with this. And as you can see, the storm moves up the coast. So right now, we're looking, if this were to happen, we're looking at impacts for the entirety of Florida as it pretty much goes up the coast of Florida. A little bit like Irma did, except Irma obviously came a little bit more like this, but this is very similar in types of strike as it's going to be going a little bit, it's going to be going fairly like this really with the system. So something to watch out for, obviously. Now, another opportunity for a cyclone to form is going to be right off the coast of Georgia. Here is we're going to have a slight opportunity for a weak tropical system to form, but again, not too much of a concern. Now, focusing on what could be a very, very strong storm, I'm going to move right here. I'm going to move right here to the Western Atlantic as we look at the storm more closely. Again, so with this, we're looking at a peak at 969 millibars with this storm. Again, according to the GFS, we'll look at other models, but the GFS is really the main one with this 969 millibars and a landfall. Right? It's really, I mean, it's going to have lots of time to intensify. It's going to be coming like this. It's going to be stalling here for a little while, and then it comes up like this and kind of stays off the coast of Florida for a while before, as you can see right here, moving inside, and then it kind of goes through here. Oops. This is the previous runs, and then it kind of goes through here and goes up. Now, again, if we look at the previous runs here, it wasn't showing much, Like, this is some of the previous runs. It wasn't showing as strong of a system, but, now we really have a little bit of a stronger system with this run. So 961 millibar landfall, as you can see. Now, as we look at some other things that we have to consider is the precipitation, and we're going to be getting quite a bit of precipitation with this storm. First of all, looking back at the other system, you can see the possibility, again, for some kind of tropical cyclone to form here, right around here. But again, what we're going to be looking at mostly is all the precipitation forming. Look at that. Look at all the precipitation, and then you see it move right here. This is really when the system takes form, and we're going to be getting really good conditions for that. And then it really explodes right near Cuba here. It absolutely explodes. And then we get that 969 millibar as it moves over Florida. Again, potentially. Now, that's not it. Obviously, we have a lot of things to consider into this. I also want to look at a 850 millibar wind. Just again, it's going to be very strong winds. I mean, you're looking at around 80 to 90 knots with this storm, maybe a little less. So it's going to be a very strong system. You're going to have a significant amount of winds, significant amount of rainfall with this coming from this potential system. Wind shear wise, it's going to be a little bit of wind shear, but I mean manageable for the storm. Especially coming in the Gulf of Mexico, it's going to have a couple opportunities where wind shear is a little low. Right here, for example, and then right before making landfall in Florida, it's going to have a very low wind shear to the southeast of it. So wind shear is going to be fairly favorable for the storm. Nothing, not the best for the season, but nothing too bad. Let's just say that. Now, what I wanted to look at also is the potential velocity. And again, you can see those different outcomes with the storm. Coming back to the early formation, this is where we get those two early system forming here. One, this is again our system in the Caribbean, and this is our second one up there. And then obviously this one dies off, and then we get the system moving in, as well as also right here where we have this very strong vorticity spin, which could develop into something else. But then look at that. It has just such good conditions and such a nice outflow of the storm here, where really it could develop very nicely into a fairly strong system. So that is also something to really consider closely with this system. On top of that, we're gonna have very good moisture. So looking at the moisture wise here, if I just can find it, wind shear, millibar wind potential. I mean, I just looked at it a minute ago. I don't know where it went. But the moisture is gonna be perfect for the storm. We're gonna have very, very good conditions. Now, what I want to look at is, again, this is a little far out. So, for example, I don't think the European model would pick up on it. Actually, it could pick up only a little bit. So, the European model, obviously, it doesn't pick up on, quite yet here. European model is not really on board, but it is on board for, something to form potentially. We still have kind of a low pressure forming in the Caribbean, but they're more, it looks like the European model is going to be more on board with something coming out of the Gulf of Mexico, which is going to be a strong possibility too. So we're going to have to watch out again. Potential systems going to be forming inside the Caribbean, moving up through the Caribbean right here. and then taking a very close inside Florida right here, and it's going to be moving generally like this. So we can expect the National Hurricane Center to put a uh, a formation changes very soon for this storm as it moves, generally like this. Uh, Cone wise, I mean, you can expect potential strong winds in this entire area. Cuba is obviously not out of the question. Yucatan Peninsula is not out of the question. So this could be potentially a very strong storm that everyone needs to look out for. And really, previous models showed something going to Texas, Louisiana. So all of you guys are not out of the question. Even potentially Cuba and North Carolina. I mean, right now, the possibilities right now are a little bit more spread out. We even have some models earlier in the week forming it here, some models forming it here, some models again forming it down here, and some models forming it around here, and pushing it out like we're seeing the GFS do also. So right now the possibilities are limitless for the storm.